Thank you very much. Now let's deliver the next speaker is outlined by Governor John.
Mr. Speaker, we agree that national liberation figureheads have done good already, but the question of today's debate would be, what would be the best next move that they need to do? I only have two issues for everyone for you in order for us to clarify this debate. First is on the issue, should they enter politics or not? And second, does this actually improve politics and democracy? Now let's first start with the first issue. Should they enter politics or not? The main contention coming from the opposition side was more the idea that, they have the right to participate in politics, that they have this human right to participate in politics, because maybe they're qualified, because they were able to rally these people behind them. But what we're saying coming from the government side is that we think that these figureheads are actually in a special position that they must have this moral obligation to give up this idea of running to politics because of exactly the reason that they've been telling you about. Because people are rallying behind them, because at the end, what Taeyeong mentioned to you is actually founded on blind loyalty, something that we think is really problematic. But the speaker a while ago told us, but there are political campaigns anyway that the opposition can use, and it's actually legitimate, it will actually work. The thing about these analysis is that the moment, this was actually discussed already by my partners, the moment that you run actually against these, figureheads, it's either your campaign would not really work because these people are engrossed to these, figureheads already. That's the teenager explanation that they don't really, logically think and process everything because they mystify these people already that this is good, that this person would solve. That's why to some extent, if we're going to radicalize the analysis, even those people who would be running against these figureheads can even be demonized by the society to the point that they will never win the election. Example, as much as I don't want to talk about it in my country, the moment that you have a surname Aquino, because we think and in our history, we've actually portrayed them as the hero of democracy, whether the son is qualified or not, he became our president. That's the thing. You would always have that kind of effect. That's why we said that because of all of these things, perhaps these people should actually give up their, chance to run to public office because we think that it becomes problematic. But then the leader of the opposition said that we want to do this because it would actually tell the people how bad the previous administration was. We don't think this is mutually exclusive only in their stance. We think that if you really want to express, explain, gather support, make people, unify, you don't need this particular position. You don't need to be politics. Why? We think and we actually believe that this is already happening in the present situation. When you think about the roles of kings and queens in United Kingdom and Thailand, we think that they actually have this kind of power. And we think that these people would be better off if they would actually stay in that kind of position. That's why in the question that whether they should stay or not, government side thinks that they shouldn't. They should stay as the beacon perhaps of the society and do not participate in politics. Because at the end, we think it creates more harms as compared to the benefits that they've been actually talking about. Because on the second big issue that I wanted to discuss, does it really benefit politics and democracy anyway? Because apparently what they're saying is that these people would be good because apparently they said that people are actually rallying behind them. And basically that's the only explanation that we've heard coming from them. As instead, Taeyeong already said to you that just exactly that kind of premise becomes problematic because now we can conclude that after this point that people would not most likely be going to participate anyway. Because at the end, if they're going to run against a particular person, there's a high chance for them not to win. So basically, it becomes problematic. But because if we try to conceptualize all of these things, what is democracy anyway? Is it really about one person leading everyone? We don't think so. That's why the entire analysis of debate and political discourse was far better in the government side. Because the concept of democracy is that you want more people having different ideas, debating, fighting, arguing against each other in order for you to come up with the best and sound decision. Question is, can you achieve that in their model? We don't think so. We don't think that you can have that kind of debate. We don't think you can have that kind of argumentation. The question is, what kind of policy and decision would you have? Something that, a decision that was just decided by this one person whom people think. That's why at the end we think that it's far better for you to be actually to be siding coming from the government side. Yeah.
So under your policy, why can't you say other possible superhero won't cause any harm compared to those figureheads?
The thing is that we're not saying that there won't be, that it would be a perfect situation. But at least what we're saying is there are more participation that's going to happen. Because for example, in the event that they would become chaotic and whatnot, then we use this person that, stop, don't be chaotic. At least we have those kind of benefits anyway in the present situation. What we're saying is that everything you wish to achieve that these people can do can be better done also for example, in our side. Because the basic model of this would be the limited monarchy in United Kingdom, right? You have a moral beacon who's guiding everyone that that's actually bad, you shouldn't do that. But then again, you have a prime minister running politics, being criticized, being supported by people, being replaced by the people. For example, Tony Blair, Mr. Brown. The point there is that at least we have all of these people, and at the same time we have moral beacon. That's why we think that when you talk about and when you want to conceptualize democracy, that kind of model provided by the government side is far better than what they're saying. Because as what NC already has extended this kind of debate, we think that sometimes these political leaders actually creates more backlash in democracy. Because just because they stood up for example, of freedom and democracy, sometimes they need to ensure that they don't compromise the position that they stood for. Because otherwise, they might lose this kind of charismatic effect that they have to the public. Again, I don't want to use this, but like in the Philippines, when our president, the first lady president, ruled our country, it became really problematic because the banner was more on democracy and freedom. But at that time, we needed more government control. We needed more, strict regulations so that, for example, like the Chebos in Korea could also happen in the Philippines. But because she stands for freedom, it was extended even to the private industry to the point that she privatized everything, that to the point that she devolved everything. There was less control to the government. It became chaotic, and that's the reason why Philippines is like that in the present. And that's why I think that kind of leaders should actually stay out of politics. Let others participate, let others debate, go against it, because at the end, these charismatic effect, all of this guidance and motivation that they can offer to the society can still be achieved even without them inside politics. That's why at the end of the day, we think that we better achieve the goal of politics and unity coming from the government side. Thanks.
Thank you for the comment. Now I'd like to call upon the last speaker, Jim, constructive speeches. I'd like to invite Aung Sang and Noritaka Kon.
Mr. Chair, the team accounting may be seen. This position will do harm in this newly emerging democracy. But the recognition about this position is perfectly different between the affirmative side and citizens on the ground. That is why, because recognition about this kind of position is different, we have to rely on the capacity of the citizens up to the discussion. Because even in the newly emerging democracy, we believe they have the capacity to bring the healthy discussion. Anyway, this is the basis of side the opposition. Based on that, I want to talk about three issues. Firstly, I'm going to examine the existence of problem. Why the problem is so marginal? On the contrary, the harm from their side is so big. Secondly, I'm going to talk about why even newly emerging democracy have the capacity to bring the healthy discussion. And thirdly, I'm going to talk about the right to be politician or political privilege, which is perfectly ignored by the government. So on the first issue about existence problem. This because we heard from their side of the house mainly two problems. The first problem we have is in the status quo, there is no equal participation. As a consequence, there is no different opinion. Couple responses. Firstly, I don't think it's true because some people can learn. For example, because there's no influence from the past oppressive regime, the some positions tend to be learned in the first place. And secondly, more importantly, we don't think that 100% equality is necessary in this instance because there is a limitation of democratic function. That is why, for example, even in the status quo, we allow the influence figure like the celebrity or the son of a previous president can learn of the election. Or for example, religious leader can learn run the political election. Or for example, in the United States, we are allowing the lobby activity, Mr. Speaker. That is why even the equality is important to some extent. We cannot say the 100% equality is necessary. And more than that, on the third level, if we pass this motion, meaning we have to eradicate the opinion from this figure, Mr. Speaker. That is why even if we pass this motion, we cannot achieve to maximize the opinion or different opinion. That is why this is rather counterproductive. The second problem we have from the side of the House is from the Deputy Prime Minister is that this position never compromise. Two responses to that. Firstly, it is factually wrong because if the supporter wish them to do so, they tend to compromise because it's only way to elect again in next election. Because if they wouldn't compromise, they lose the dictation from the supporter, Mr. Speaker. That is why this is factually wrong. And secondly, more importantly, even if they never compromise, what's wrong with this? Because imagine that, for example, far-right political party, although they never compromise their opinion, they are existing anyway, Mr. Speaker. That is why we don't think this is a so big problem. So rather, why this policy is harmful? This is the material we gave you the leader of opposition. Because we cannot expect what kind of situation would happen. For example, in the worst case scenario, because leader of libertarian movement in Egypt are replaced by Muhammad Mursi, in the status quo, there is many unconstitutional activity like the operation of the Christian speaker. That is why when you look at the worst case scenario, our scenario is much better. No, thank you. So on the second issue about the capacity to bring the healthy this discussion. Mr. Speaker, the main contention from a party is very simple. When it comes to the newly emerging democracy, there is no capacity to bring the healthy discussion. The first reason is no social infrastructure. No, thank you. Leader of opposition already rebutted upon. Even in the newly emerging democracy, there is, for example, the non-governmental organization or the eye from the international society, Mr. Speaker. That is why this cannot be reason to support their case. The second reason we heard from their side of the House is other candidates hesitate to run election. No, precisely because it's newly emerging democracy, there is a many chance for them to be elected because there is no past influence from the oppressive regime, Mr. Speaker. That is what they're talking about is factually wrong. So why this course is necessary? When you consider there is a capacity to do so. Firstly, as deputy leader of opposition told you, and which is perfectly ignored by government view. Because these people are so influential, we can enhance the interest of the citizen on the ground. Because when the citizens think these people are influential, they tend to be participants in the political discourse. For example, reading a newspaper or look at the TV, for example, Mr. Speaker. And more than that, because these people are unique, they have a special knowledge. For example, the past oppression, Mr. Speaker. That is why when it comes to the symbol, we think there is These people are very important to maximize healthy discourse.
Perfect.
Before I move on, I'll start issue. Yes, sir.
Compromise is not going to occur because if you don't compromise, that obviously strengthens the basic ground for the
No,
already
no, no.
existing political parties,
No, no.
allowing them to be elected again.
No, because past political ground doesn't matter. Because when political situation change, when the what citizen wish to change, they can follow these opinion people. This is perfectly nonsense. So on the third issue about the right to be politician, which is perfectly ignored by government. Mr. Speaker, they said there is no right. Firstly, because they are kind of the prisoner or teenager. I think there is no reason behind that. Well, second reason we have from the government to give, I think this is too late, is they have the moral obligation. No, I think their moral obligation is to participate in the political discourse and express what kind of incidents happened in the past, what kind of things are needed in this country, Mr. Speaker. I think we think this is moral obligation, because when it comes to these political figures, they know the best in the past. That is why, as leader of opposition told you, because the past record cannot be criteria, because the whether or not they have the influence cannot be the criteria, we have to rely on the capacity of the citizen. We have to up to discussion among the citizens. This is the basic stance from the opposition. See you, grandfather.
Thank you very much. After now, I'd like to move on to response speeches, simply the option by particular petition, stated in essay.
So in the end of the debate, we have heard a lot of examples about Philippines. First, I must say I'm sorry that the Philippines liberation hero actually messed up the nation, right? But that doesn't actually create a pretext where we should preclude every single liberation hero in all sorts of nations to become politicians just because one of the nations actually flushed up, right, Mr. Speaker? We don't even use Indonesia in this debate. I'm saving it for a grand final. See you again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's compare today's debate, right? What we have told you as the opposition today is this: we recognize the importance of healthy discussion. We believe that even with the participation of those liberation heroes as a politician in the nascent democracies, there can still be healthy discussion. We have told you from the first to the third speaker, through all the speakers, we have told you how there's an incentive for the movement leaders to actually encourage discussion, because they're creating democracy. They are trying to escape those oppressions because they've experienced of the oppression. They know how bad oppression is. They are likely not going to create another situation where one day can just simply dominate or create a new dictatorship or whatsoever, Mr. Speaker. We have expanded upon how in cases where there can be like NGOs and so on, where actually the discussion can happen. We have also shown you that if you accept the contention that there are going to be other politicians who aspire to actually become politicians, who aspire to be opposing or running as a candidate along with a politician that is the liberation hero. We believe that that in itself is already an opening a window that opens up the discourse in itself, and they never engage that, Mr. Speaker. Existence of a political opposition means that there's going to be discussion, ladies and gentlemen. So we believe that the opposition side has proven to you why the discussion itself is not going to be compromised, especially when we talk about nascent democracies, especially considering the incentives and the spirit of those movement leaders in starting their movement. They are not going to let it run to waste, right? The only response coming from the government side is that they are going we are going to create more participation and so on, and these people, this liberation hero is harming this more participation, right? Mr. Speaker, even if we suppose that this existence of the liberation hero is going to overwhelm the other candidates, they need to prove to us one thing. Why does more participation in the politics mean better democracy? When we have explained to you, when they've also explained to you that this is a nascent democracy, right? It's emergent democracy. We have shown you, we have argued to you why it is important in all sorts of democracies that it is better to crawl before you walk. It's better to have some leader that you can trust or some figure you can trust before you actually start going to full-fledged democracy and so on. Most democracies that we recognize right now now, if we go by the theme nostalgia, if we look at the past, we look at the states like United Nations and so on, which starts with a leader that has been well recognized by the people before it actually starts maturing into democracy. Even if they say that right now, at the first step of the democracy, it is going to be like, very polarized. There is going to be a landslide win by this certain liberation hero. We believe, so what? What is the problem with that? Is there anything wrong with that? Because we have proven to you what it does not halt the process of democracy developing into a mature one in itself, ladies and gentlemen. What has the government told you today? They believe that the people are just a bunch of like morons who that's like, just blindly vote for a hero and so on, right? We have engaged upon this point repeatedly by telling you two things. One, the first thing is that regardless or not they are like a hero, there's still a discussion among the people. There's still going to be people who want to question about whether or not this leader is sufficient or is a suitable one for that. The second is that we've engaged upon this by telling you why even if those people believe that this person they blindly believe that this person should be the next leader, it is okay because it is the spirit, it is the aspiration of those people, and we believe that we should not deny that, right? We need to consider that there are some people who hold their liberation figureheads in very high regards, and therefore they need to have somebody to vote, the person they vote to being the person that they respect, the liberation hero itself. And we believe that we shall not strip anybody of the right to choose those figures, not the liberation figureheads itself to participate in politics, not the people to vote for them. Which is why we believe that it's very important. The presence of this person as a politician in itself is very important to these emerging democracies. Having proven all that, we believe that we deserve to win. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I would like to move to the last speaker of this day,
I have three issues in today's debate. First, what is the burden of proof? Second argument, who are the figureheads of the liberation movement? And third, who is the politicians, right? First, burden of proof. I think their burden of proof, all the benefits these guys talked about, is mutually exclusive by these people, right? Figurehead. They talked about a lot of good stuff, right? I can't say a lot of good stuff too. The problem is, you need to tell me why these people is going to bring, these kind of figureheads is going to bring good things to our countries. Our burden of proof is not going to bring you perfect consequence of the countries, right? Maybe we don't know who is going to be president, but we believe better participation sometimes, many times, always brings a better consequence, right? That is why that is the purpose of debate. Don't push us to the corner because we can't make a perfect country. You can make a perfect country too, right? It's not mutual burden. So, moving on to my second question. Who are figurehead of the movement? We don't hate them. I personally love them. And I think, they are the person who are getting a lot of support, mental support, material support, and respect from the people. There's only reasons why these people give you that support. Bring the better democracy to my countries. That is why they have moral obligation. If their move harms the democracy of the countries, then you shouldn't do that. Because all your figure thing, all your respect was built on that one ideas, right? Since we proved to you, being a politician is not the absolute right. If they think they have harmed the democracy of their countries, which is the sole purpose of the being a figurehead of liberal movement, then you shouldn't do this. That was proven by us, and that was slightly touched by opposition whip, but that wasn't that satisfying. Then DLO said, they must have a social unity. They talk a lot of things to the public. Maybe they can too as a king. They don't have to be politicians, right? They can sit down on the chair, on their house, and bring some of the peoples. You need to go to, vote. And you must be a good citizen because I make this country better. I think that is enough. Why they must be politicians to provide these truth and good ideas? They never proved to us. It's not mutually exclusive, right? The last idea, what is the politicians? We said politicians and presidents are the people who decide the future of the countries. They are not the same as a leader, liberal leader, right? They need charismatic. There is the stupid oppressor, there is one, you need to kill them. That's enough. They don't have to choose the politics, they don't have to make this kind of stuff, right? And politicians and these people is different. That is why we said we need more people participate in the political arena, and people must have a more informed choice, choose who is the best people who can govern my countries. We said why that is impossible, right? Because we see themselves as a liberate movement and liberate themselves. We see them as a hero. They said, no, people is not stupid. In the newly democratic society, more people is going to participate and win that hero. I highly doubt it, right? I think this is common sense in the newly democratic society because you have less, infrastructure. You have less media to spread your ideas, right? These people is most likely picked up by the people rather than other people. Then what about the politicians, right? If you oppose the political party of the figurehead, you are not going to being a politician. What's coming from Taeyeong? No response whatsoever. That is why, I don't think their policy brings the better participation. They said we can have a more discourse. How? They said we can bring more debate. How? There wasn't any ideas. How? I can have 100 how, but I don't think they can answer to my how thing because you didn't do that, right? Then lastly, I gave you the critical ideas, no response. I think, sometimes we need to compromise, right? Leader must be compromised. If your compromise brings the betterment of the society, right? But compromisations giving you more elections because people can believe your basic stance, being a hero of the society is going to be strengthened, right? But if you start to compromise, that basic stance is going to be harmed. So those leaders is not going to go to the Japanese government and telling them, I need money and I'm not going to ask your responsibility. That is not going to happen. For my countries and for your countries, I'm very proud to propose this.
Thank you for your cooperation. This is closely by decision and